Hello and welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is Whisky Review number 95. What I have for you today is a single malt whisky. It's not single malt Scotch whisky, it's actually English whisky. And it's not from the English Whisky Company down in Norfolk, it is not from the Lakes, it's not from the Cotswolds, and it's not from Bimber in London. It is actually from Yorkshire. It comes in the form of this. Filey Bay Moscatel finish. So, the Filey Bay Distillery, this is their third release. They've done two inaugural releases, I suppose, that have both been ex-bourbon matured. And what they've done now is they've released this, which is their third whisky, and it's initially matured in 200 litre bourbon casks. In this instance, filled in 2016, and they were then transferred for a finishing period in Moscatel wine casks. Now, Moscatel is a Portuguese fortified wine, very intense flavours, which should in theory benefit a younger whisky, because a younger whisky will have more sporadic, erratic, potentially, features, you tend to find. I've got to say straight away, really lovely presentation, really lovely bottle, it really is. Lovely colours, lovely bottle style. This is bottled at 46%. I believe it's non-chill filtered, and it has not got added colouring. I did see it before I started the play button thing, and now I can't find it anywhere. Excellent. I'm sure it's right in front of me. Right, yeah, there it is, yeah, shockingly enough. Natural colour and non-chill filtered. Well done, you guys, straight away on that. Now, again, I hail from Lancashire, so it's incredibly difficult for me to see a Yorkshire whisky distillery, not a Lancastrian whisky distillery. But it's alright, it's all good. It's all good, I'll let it slide, I'll let it slide. So, natural colour, if we look at that, now, okay, it's a young whisky, so it's not going to be as intensely coloured for a start. And whilst it has had a finishing period in Moscatel, that is probably what has lent it a lot of that colour. That is in the bottle at least. You might not be able to tell in this light, because again, apologies guys, I'm in the dining room again. It's a lot darker than their initial two ex-bourbon releases. I mean, if I hold it against some white, hopefully that sort of gives you a bit of a better impression of the colour. It's slightly darker. So it's bottled at 46%. Now this retails at 60 quid at the moment, so it's 60 quid. You do tend to find that younger distilleries have to put out their wares slightly, I'm not going to say inflated prices, but maybe slightly higher prices than you would usually expect to pay against more well-established distilleries when you're buying younger whisky of a similar age. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys haven't been trading that long. They need to make some of that money back in order to continue. I mean, look at Bimber, again, 65 quid for their recharge. Now, on the nose initially, it is very intense. It's quite closed. You do have that wine influence straight away. You've also got, strangely, strawberry jelly, which isn't something I've come across since I was about 7, 8 maybe. Very sweet. Cinder toffee, it's quite heavy, it's quite clunky. I mean, I think what I do notice, the base spirit itself is still very prominent, it's still quite spirit heavy, and at the same time you've got this very kind of, I don't want to say acidic, but it's the wine note is incredibly prevalent over the top of that. You've kind of got these two layers. You've got sandwich, so to speak. So you've got your initial base spirit, because it's a young whisky, it's a very youthful whisky. You will find very heavy spirit influence in there, and then you've got the wine influence, and everything in between there is trying to balance those two things out. Admittedly, it's slightly prickly, but not too bad. I mean, there's toffee in there. There's pepper. There's ginger. There's also fruit in there. It's not citrus. It's not citric. I'll be honest, it's almost, right at the end, a little bit edgy, a little bit raw, potentially. On the palate. Good mouthfeel, nice and oily. Oh, blimey, right. A lot of ginger this time. Now on the nose it wasn't too prevalent. On the palate, it's big, it is there. Grasmere gingerbread, candied ginger, fresh ginger. It is also still a little bit spirity initially, and again a little bit edgy, particularly now going into the finish. It's becoming quite bitter, but you do still have quite a nice level of sweetness there that balances it out. It's quite warm. It gets sweeter as the finish continues. It's quite herbal, I think you could say. Again, really, really nice mouthfeel there. I think a lot of those sort of spirity, prickly edges are very much sort of like brought in and controlled by that quite heavy finish that they've been basically put through. And I think Moscatel in particular, and the same with a lot of fortified wine. I mean, you know, things like port and you know, I mean, you've got like Oloroso and PX, etc., etc. They do tend to overpower a lot of whiskies, but at the same time, when they are used correctly, they also add a very nice dimension, and they can actually add depth, and they can contribute a lot of other aspects apart from that overpowering single flavour that they might be bringing to the table. And I think Moscatel was quite a smart finish to use for this, because it's youthful spirit. I can't imagine the finishing period was very long, I'll be honest. I couldn't see on the website how long it had been finished in Moscatel, and I can't see that it tells me on the bottle either, on the, well, the bottle or the box. I mean, one thing that I've not mentioned yet, I mean, they are quite good. The Yorkshire Distillery. Well, you never know, there might be another one yet. The spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, should I say, in the sense that, and I'll show you here. Hopefully, you guys can read that. So, 100% homegrown barley from our farm. Now, that's pretty cool. I can think of an Irish distillery that's not long been on the scene that's using local barley, shall we say, to produce their whiskey, which is pretty good. So yeah, I mean, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water. So I want to give it a chance and just see. What? Easy. Move that a little bit further away. What a couple of teaspoons, maybe 2.5 teaspoons actually, of water does to this whiskey. Let's give it a bit of a swirl. So while that's opening up, a little bit more about the spirit of Yorkshire Distillery. So Filey Bay is basically the release names, the brand names, so to speak. The Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery is the actual distillery name. And their director of whisky, Joe Clark, is a great guy, really nice guy. Met him several times before, used to work at the Whisky Lounge. Top bloke, Joe, knows what he's doing, knows what he's all about, and he's one of the good guys in whisky as well, which always helps. And I think I missed out on the first release. I did, it sold out very quickly, and I missed out from the usual retailers as well. I've actually been sent a sample of the second release that I actually took a look at on one of my Instagram lockdown live feeds a few weeks ago, and I was quite impressed. I mean, I like ex-bourbon spirit, as I've said pretty much in every review that's involved ex-bourbon spirit, and it's quite interesting to see these side by side. I think already, for me, this one is actually potentially a little bit more, I don't want to say refined, but a little bit more structured. Is probably the word that I'd use. Has a bit more depth. But let's see what that water's done to it now. Oh well, okay, yeah. It needed water. It did need water. So already, I'll be honest, guys, there is an immediate improvement there. The prickly aspects gone. There's a lot more fruit, so I've got a lot of exotic fruit in there now. There is still a grapey element to it, slightly acidic, a little bit, do I want to say astringent? Probably not. I don't want to say astringent, but it's there, it's still, still there. The spices, there's toffee. Again, the ginger's there, but it's softened again a little bit. It's not quite as intense, it's not quite as hot. Think something maybe confectionery, think like Jamaican ginger cake or something like that. There's also foam bananas. Now I'm a pink shrimp man, but my wife, foam bananas. Now, interestingly, something that I did not get on the nose prior to adding water, but I am getting now, is a very salty, sort of ozone-y, salinity kind of smell. Now, interestingly, the distillery itself is located in, I can never say this right, Hunmanby, I'll just say Hunmanby, which is relatively close to the coast. God, try saying that after a few of these. Which, again, similar to a thing like whiskies like Pulteney. We see it on a lot of Islay whiskies as well. You do get that salinity. Does that play a part? The jury's out there. A little bit of caramel. Potentially some sort of like icing sugar maybe at the end, or like icing on the palate. Right, the palate, very different prior to the, when it was before I added water. So now it's much sweeter, it's much softer. So initially on the tongue I've got icing sugar, I've got like dolly mixtures. It's still a little bit warm, it's getting warmer as the finish progresses. There's none of that ginger anymore really. There's a little bit of spice. Now there's potentially a tiny little bit of citrus, but I'm leaning more towards like a red fruit kind of vibe going on. And you know what I said on the nose about Jamaican ginger cake? I'm still thinking bacon, but it's like develop a bit, yeah. So scones, depends how you say it. Again, jury's out on that one. And potentially some sort of like salty butter. Very nice dram. It is, it's very nice dram. I am loving the English whiskey. Can you call it a revival? I don't think you can call it a revival, can you? I'm loving the current English whiskey scene, shall we say. I have tried whiskies from every one of the English distilleries apart from Dartmoor at the moment. In the sense of I've tried St George's, I've tried Bimber, I've tried the Lakes, I've tried these guys, I've tried the Cotswolds. And what I'm really happy with is that they all have their own style, which is what I've sort of intimated in the Bimber review. They are not trying to be Scotch, and it's what I intimated in the English Whisky Company review as well. They are not trying to be Scotch, but as well as not trying to be Scotch, they are not trying to be each other. They are not trying to find parallels. They are trying to curve and carve their own place in the whisky industry, and everybody is doing a great job of that. And don't get me wrong, without Scotch I don't think it'd be possible, because there's so much expertise there. There is so many years of trial and error, and varying levels of perfection in the process that people have adopted, and that's what progression is. That's what it's there for. So, would I buy this again? Yeah, I probably would. I mean, it's a lovely, very well put together whiskey. It's young. Remember that it's young. There will be unpredictable elements. It will be a little bit hot. It will be slightly prickly, but again, with water, vast improvement and a very, very enjoyable dram. So on that note, thanks for watching. See you soon.